Hello and welcome back to Grow With Keeley. Today's episode is one that feels incredibly personal because it's something I've experienced myself. And if you're a parent listening, there's a good chance you've experienced it too. We're talking about parenthood, losing yourself and finding your way back. Have you ever looked in the mirror and realised that somewhere along the way you've become everyone's everything, but you've forgotten who you are? If so, this episode is for you. I became a mum when I was just 16 years old. While many teenagers my age were figuring out who they were, what they wanted from life, and what their future might look like, I was learning how to care for another human being. And I want to be clear, I wouldn't change it for the world. My children are my greatest gift. But becoming a parent so young meant that I never really got the opportunity to fully discover who I was before becoming responsible for someone else. For years, my identity became one thing: mum. And while that's a role I'm incredibly proud of, it also meant that so much of who I was got pushed aside. My needs, my dreams, my hobbies, even my identity. Everything became about looking after everyone else. I don't think this only happens to young parents. I think it happens to parents everywhere. You become the person who remembers everyone's appointments, the person who knows everyone's favourite food, the person who solves problems, the person who carries the mental load. And one day, years later, you find yourself asking, who am I outside of being a parent? That question can feel scary. Because when you've spent years putting everyone else's needs first, you may realise you don't actually know the answer anymore. For me, turning 30 really brought this into focus. I started asking myself questions I'd never really stopped long enough to consider. What do I enjoy? What are my goals? What do I want from my future? Who is Keeley outside of being a mum? And if I'm honest, I didn't have all the answers. I think one of the biggest lies many parents are told is that wanting something for yourself somehow makes you selfish. That if you want time alone, you're selfish. If you want to pursue a goal, you're selfish. If you want a hobby, a career, a business, or simply an hour to yourself, you're selfish. But I don't believe that's true. Because when did we decide that becoming a parent meant becoming invisible? When did we decide that our needs no longer mattered? The truth is, you can be an incredible parent and still have dreams. You can be devoted to your children and still want something that's yours. You can love your family deeply and still need time to reconnect with yourself. In fact, I think it's important. Because our children are watching us, they're learning from us. And what message are we sending if we spend years teaching them that everyone else's needs matter more than their own? Wanting more for yourself doesn't mean you love your children less. It means you're recognising that you matter too. For me, a huge part of finding myself again came through creating Safe to Grow. When I started Safe to Grow, I wasn't just building a community for other people. Without even realising it, I was rebuilding parts of myself too. I was discovering things that I enjoyed. I was finding confidence. I was using my voice. I was connecting with people. And I was creating something meaningful. And for so many years, my identity had been centred around being a mum. And while I'm incredibly proud of that role, Safe to Grow reminded me that I was more than just that. I was capable, I was creative, I was passionate, and I had something valuable to offer the world. And perhaps most importantly, it reminded me that I was still growing too. Because growth doesn't stop when we become parents. We are allowed to continue evolving, learning, and becoming. If you're listening to this and you're feeling lost right now, I want you to know that you're not alone. So many parents feel this way. The difference is that most people don't talk about it. If you've forgotten what you've enjoyed, that's okay. If you don't know who you are outside of being a parent, that's okay too. You don't have to have all the answers today. Start small and ask yourself, what makes me happy? What lights me up? What have I always wanted to try? What have I stopped doing that I used to love? You don't need to completely reinvent yourself overnight. Sometimes finding yourself starts with the smallest act of self-care. A walk, a coffee, a book, a conversation, a hobby. One small step can lead to another, and before you know it, you'll start recognizing yourself again. Before we finish, I want to leave you with this. You can love your children with your whole heart and still grieve the parts of yourself that got lost while raising them. Both things can be true at the same time. Now, if that quote resonates with you, I hope you remember this. You haven't disappeared. You haven't failed. You haven't become less important. You've simply spent so long caring for everyone else that you've forgotten to care for yourself. The person you were hasn't gone. They're still there, and it's never too late to get to know them again. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to connect with me through Safe to Grow and share your own journey of finding yourself again. Until next time, keep growing because you matter too.